right, ladies, we are live in Workplace. We are recording and we are ready to roll.
Awesome. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another webinar with the Lady Leader series. I'm really, actually excited for this topic because I will say that it's something that I have been talking to doctors a lot, I feel like lately. And it's funny because I just finished up a podcast with Mark where he started alluding to some of this. And I said, Mark, wait. I said, we're going to do a webinar on exactly what you're asking about. And that is, right now we're finding that a lot of offices with inflation, with the rising costs of supplies, team, things like that, that they're wanting to potentially figure out how to be more profitable by dropping insurance participation. A lot of them are really looking to create their own, whether you call it loyalty member programs. And then a topic that I'm pretty passionate about now that has helped during COVID, but now I'm finding is just consistently being, something that's consistently really helpful to our offices is creating a remote billing department, which includes some things being outsourced as well, but just how to set up a remote billing department. So I decided this is going to be kind of a hodgepodge of billing department insurance type conversations, because often doctors don't always know where to go with all these things. And it's one of the areas they're just not well versed in. So we're going to dive in first with just introducing, of course, my amazing co-host, Ashlee. Of course, welcome back. We have amazing Amy Hernandez on with us. A lot of you guys have seen her on DSN, but Amy, tell us a little bit just about you and your background for everybody.
Yeah, so actually I started out on dentistry for over about 20 something years ago. I was in the military, started out as an assistant, went to front office to management to regional management. A few years back, I ended up opening my own company, kind of where you were talking about doing insurance billing from home. And I was doing some consulting, coaching, and training. And then COVID hit and everything kind of just turned into insurance billing because that's where the need was. So I have been doing insurance billing full time with coaching and training, of course, that I have now implemented into my insurance billing. So that's pretty much my background of just doing insurance billing, patient balances, handling anything and everything throughout the practice.
Oh, awesome. That's lovely. And then a return guest for us is my lead biller, Allison. I'll let you introduce yourself for everybody.
Yeah, so I definitely still consider myself new to dental. I actually had never been in dental until I joined doctors' organizations, which was a little over 4 years ago now. I kind of came from, I have a business degree. I worked in a lot of account management. Previously before this, I was in the ski industry actually for many years, doing, large wholesale like account management, logistics, very, very detailed. I actually always loved insurance. And for me, what really drew me to, these teams was just the incredible women, the position, and just the opportunity to just be more, I guess, fulfilled and challenged, which, working with Dr. Kassmel and her team, but that's kind of my story. And I do the billing and insurance, patient AR and insurance AR. So
okay, I have to add too. Sorry, I have to add too. So I'm in Denver and I think that you guys still have sunny skies in the moment in Eagle, but it's snowing. It's about to be dark in like 30 minutes. And I hate billing. So I have a glass of water. So I prepped myself for this specific webinar because I'm going to let you ladies really
we have champagne behind me. We will happily pop it with you if you so choose. Yeah. Amy, grab your
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Happens, right? On the lady
Sometimes insurance makes us want to drink, so I totally get it.
Exactly.
So true. So that's, well, segue beautifully, Amy, for us into, you know, Amy, and I think you will attest that there's been so many doctors right now with everything going on that, you know, I know we got the letters that talked about Cigna dropping, you know, some of their insurance reimbursements and things like that, which seems so counterintuitive right now with everything raising in cost. They're dropping actually what they're reimbursing. And so, you know, I think it's led a lot of doctors. There's tons of forums now. Things are popping up everywhere of doctors really wanting to figure out how to change their participation in PPOs. And so, you know, this is a conversation that I thought, let's really dive into. I can kind of discuss how we did it. We've done it really well over the past, and we've done it really not well. So I thought we could kind of dive into, if an office is looking at reducing their PPO participation, what are some things for them to look at? Where do they start? And I think what I'll do is, you know, I'm going to start, Allison, with you. You know, when we were first looking at this a few years ago, because we were kind of getting sick of it already, just knowing the game we were, you know, never going to win. Where did we start?
So we really started just by pulling reports in Open Dental, and we looked at so many different things, and that's kind of how we created our game plan. But, you know, the reports that, you know, we kind of categorized by fee schedules, of course, looking, you know, the highest fee schedules to the lowest. We looked at number of patients on the plans. Then we, of course, kind of had some categories like ease of working with. Can we pull the insurance information quickly online, or do we have to sit on hold for 3 hours, you know, with reps? And then just some of the companies were super difficult to work with all around. So we kind of categorized it by those different, you know, sections, and then kind of made a game plan from there. You know, doctor gave me kind of, the ability to just create our schedule. So we kind of have done this over the past year. I did spread it out so that we had time kind of in between to do, you know, the work necessary, being proactive and gathering information for how the plans would work. And then, of course, calling the insurance companies, figuring out the timelines and requirements to even terminate these contracts so that you're not surprised by any of that. But that's kind of definitely where we started, and we made our game plan based off of all of those factors.
So yeah, I mean, I would guess too, and Amy, I'm going to get to you too in just a second, but for doctors, I always say, at least understand what the mix is of your patients. Often it feels like I've got 1 million Delta Dental patients. I've got 7 million MetLife patients. And I'm always like, it may feel like that based on the week you just had. So I recommend pulling the numbers and finding out how many per plan. And then I joke with doctors, I know this may sound crazy, but if it looks like you have 200 of your, you know, patients that are under MetLife, I said, if you give that breakdown to your billers and team, they're going to know all those patients. They're going to know, you know, do they come back? Do they pay their bills? What's the quality of the patients that are underneath there? Because sometimes, and I mean, I will say, we found that certain plans, the quality of patients were ones that maybe weren't a great fit for just what we were trying to do with comprehensive care. So that list can become something where you actually can understand more of not just how many you think are under there, but the quality of the patients that are underneath each category. So I think that that's another important part, is to not just go by the numbers or the feelings, but combine that with talking to your team to find out what are the type of patients, and then start to strategize by calling those insurance plans, which I'm going to let Amy dig into more, because often until you really have all of that information, you've called the plans to find out what either a different umbrella care, you know, like Carrington, a different umbrella could actually, what that could mean for that plan. If you haven't done that work on the forefront, just dropping them cold sometimes can lead to experiences that you didn't necessarily foresee. Amy, kind of tell me your thoughts on that.
I think honestly, exactly what you just said is the real question you should be asking is the why. Why do you want to get out of network? And you have to really understand that it's a completely different, you know, battle, but it's really the same problems. You know, are you contracted, like if the fees that you have, your contracted fees, are they able to be negotiated? You know, you want to make sure, I mean, every doctor that I hear that wants to get out of network is because they're doing a $600 crown and they're like, I don't want to do $600 crowns, but it's in reality, you can negotiate these fees and properly, and you have to understand that game. So also, like, what is your location suitable for a fee for service practice? What is your marketing like? Because being an network provider gives you, you know, free marketing by being placed on rosters and letting your patients know you're contracted with them. So then now you're going to have to do some external marketing. Are you prepared for that? How busy is your practice? How far are you guys booked out? Will losing patients have immediate issues with you not being able to, you know, meet your monthly expenses? You know, what will your patients think? You know, the verbiage, your team has to be on board, most importantly, because they are the ones that are going to either guide your patients in the right direction, or they're going to lead them out the door even more. So overall, I feel like if your desire to go out of network is based on just the despise of dental insurances, trust me, regardless of you being in or out of network, it will not make the insurances any easier to handle.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that should be repeated, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because you despise it, like it's a
Exactly. I think like it's really hard, like, and I get this conversation a lot. And obviously I have, you know, a lot of offices that are in network, out of network, there's hybrid offices. So I deal with this conversation a lot. And I just always tell, like, you know, your patients will still want to utilize their benefits, and you will still need to help those patients maximize their coupon, so they will still feel like they're getting top quality work and having their insurance being utilized to the max. So even if you are in or out of network, you still want to show those patients the value of what they have. So everything really comes down to patient, you know, knowledge, understanding, so then you can really explain that. Because when you do decide, or if you do decide to get out of network, you want to cross that bridge. You don't want to really just say, hey, am I okay to lose this patient? I'll wipe my hands of them. In reality, you still need to create that bridge, because there are going to be a lot of patients that will stay because your staff, because of your verbiage, your understanding. So I don't want doctors or, you know, offices to feel like they're held hostage by dental insurances. Really what it is, it's all understanding the insurance game. And that's really what it comes down to.
And I think that's such a beautiful point that I think so many offices are completely just unaware of, that just because, you know, you participated this way for so long doesn't mean you have to continue participating that same way. And I mean, it's kind of mind blowing when all of a sudden you can realize, like I said, that MetLife can actually fold under the Carrington umbrella and all of your fees can exponentially increase. And maybe you don't have to change your participation as much as you think. And that was stuff for us that when we realized you don't always have to continue to participate the same. And going out of network, and I really want to repeat this, Amy, because I love that you made this point, that going out of network doesn't mean you just go like this with insurance. I think people think like, oh, I'm done, I don't do it. You still have to help.
They're still married in some way by, you know, your second cousin. They're still married.
And they're still going to want to utilize the benefits to the level to which they can. So to Allison's point, you know, we were kind of strategic with, we created the list. We're going to kind of dig more into training the team, because Amy, I could not agree more with you. We could not agree more with you on the training of the team. And we'll kind of give you the stories of what we did not super well, what I really didn't probably do well, and then just pushed on to Allison probably. But we'll kind of go more into the training and more into all of that as well. But I think, you know, those points are like you said, Ash, are really important for doctors to understand. You can change how you participate. And if you choose to go out of network after all of these different factors that we just discussed, you're still going to be participating. So you have to do the homework by calling them. And I know Allison was telling me before we jumped on, there's questions that you have to call and ask the insurance company. So Allison, I'm going to let you dive in. Like when you're looking to figure out what does out of network mean, she's talked to other billers and they're like, well, they just don't give you anything. You just, you're at a loss. You don't know anything. And go ahead, Allison, with what you were discussing with me.
Well, you know, we, of course, just like everybody, have just learned so much through this process where, you know, when we started and just having all these contracts in place where in general, if patients were coming to our office, they were in network, had a contracted rate. So switching to either out-of-network benefits or, again, a lot of these plans for us, because we have, our situation is going to be different than a different office where maybe they are going to fee for service, where we are remaining with Carrington and one other contract for the time being. So, a lot of these plans were able to move under Carrington and remain in network. But, for the plans that really are moving to utilize our out-of-network benefits, it's really just being, I kind of use the word aggressive sometimes when you call and speak with the reps, and, and even just telling them, look, I know that you're not going to, disclose your UCR fees to me, but there's workarounds. I've had, some companies, they'll let you give them your codes. So like with MetLife, I was able to give like 20 codes, and they gave me code by code the UCR that MetLife will pay for out of network. Cigna, they wouldn't give me UCR fees that they would use, but they would give me a range. So I could go through one by one and give them our office fees. And the reps would tell me, yes, that is within our UCR range, which is super helpful. And she said that if our office fee was above, she would have let me know that, their UCR they will pay off of is below it. So again, all of this is just collecting as much information as we can so that we can, communicate that with our patients. We can give them an idea of, yes, we may be changing how we participate with your plan. However, your plan has great out-of-network benefits. Here is how it's going to look, once that change has happened. And that's been, I think super helpful for us. And then setting up even those out-of-network fee schedules, just to really keep the treatment plans accurate. That's been a big part of it, is just being proactive before that those contracts terminate and just having that information.
Yeah, doing the legwork, doing the prep work ahead of time. Amy, tell me kind of what you suggest when offices.
So I actually work only with open dental. So when you guys said open dental, you're speaking my love language. So I have, over 30 offices, and all we do is open dental. And this is a conversation that I have a lot with DSN, DSI members, my, obviously my own, insurance billing offices. And what I highly recommend every time I see this happen is create out of network fee schedules. It's extremely important to understand that, yes, your full UCR might be $1,400 for a crown, but their allowed amount might be $1,100. That $300 discrepancy now is where you have to figure out let your open dental or your software system figure out how that's going to be collected. So then you're not on the back end trying to get payments from patients that are like, oh, I already paid my copay. So really being as most, accurate as possible, understanding how your software can be utilized, understanding their allowed amounts. I am someone definitely, like you said, like I get all of the information before, but I'm more of like, let's build my fee schedule. As soon as the insurance pays, I'm already, like part of the insurance billing, systems that we have in place is that we just, update your fee schedule for you. So I'm not going to sit there and have 20 mistakes made. I'm going to fix it at that time. So then you don't have the same mistakes over and over again. So creating systems within your practice to make sure that your biller, whoever that may be, outsourced or not, understands that bigger picture, that I want that $300 discrepancy paid, not just this time, but all times. So definitely letting your software do its job.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, you can get it as accurate as you can, but as the EOBs come in, that's when, and that's exactly what Allison does too, is just update them as they come in, because you can only do so much. Of course. So I think that we'll move into, Amy, training of the team on this. It's so important to ensure that you give them enough information to make an informed comment to the patient, but not so much information that they lose track of what really matters and they sometimes misspeak to the patients. I'll let you kind of chime in, Amy, what you talk to your team members about with this.
Yeah, so I actually have scripts that I go over with offices when I do coachings and trainings, and I say, okay, now there's some offices that when they talk about being out of network, they want to be as transparent as possible. And they'll say, I am out of network and, this is what it is. Then there's offices that are like, no, we are, we accept your insurance, you know? So it's that verbiage. You just have to speak all of the same lingo. Everybody has to speak the same, use the same terms, the verbiage. It all has to be uniform. So really just helping your staff know that this is what you're setting in your office. And if you need help as far as like deciding on what that verbiage is, of course, you know, reach out to any of us. We can help you with that. But really just making sure that your front office is saying the same thing as back office is saying the same thing as your billers. Everybody is saying the same things, because when those questions they happen every day, they'll say, you know, do you take MetLife, or whatever the question may be. And it's like, you have to say it to where you are being you want to show the pros, basically. You want to show the pros of why to choose your office without saying, I don't contract with you, you know? So you have to find the highlights of everything so you can appease those patients that don't really understand even how their benefits work in the first place. They really don't. So you have to, they just say, do you take my insurance? And if you say that, I mean, if someone were to ask me that, that's where you can live in the gray. So understanding that verbiage and really being how you want to be perceived in your office, transparency is important. So if you are going to say that, then own it. Be an out of network fee for service practice and own that title.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that was such an important point I don't want to gloss over, is how you said that it's just as important to ensure that the dental assistants know what to say, because I was kind of shaking my head emphatically, because that literally happens where the front office will say everything beautifully. They get into the back and literally they will ask your brand new, been there 2 weeks DA. So wait, did I understand right that you guys are out of network with MetLife? And she's like,
yeah, I have no idea. They don't even know what out of network is. Like, and that's kind of where, like, you know, you do spend that time. You want to train your staff, and it's almost like, you know, presenting treatment. And it's the same concept. You know, everybody has to understand what a root canal is and why the purpose of it. It's the same thing with insurance benefits. The back office assistant might be strong and able to present treatment and understand that patient, or that patient to understand what a root canal is. And the front office might not be as strong because they don't understand that clinical aspect. It's just role reversing and having everybody understand that bigger picture of what that position really does and how much it affects the other person moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and to maintain that level of trust, I think it's super important that the patient really does hear it from all those different viewpoints. You know, one of the questions that I get often, and I'm going to let Allison kind of chime in here, is, you know, people are always like, oh, do you put out, you know, letters and let everybody know? And I'm going to tell you a little bit from our experience, and I'll let Allison kind of chime in, that we may have been a little hasty with our, you know, let's just send out all the letters and, you know, this is going to be great. And I mean, I think I spent forever crafting the most perfectly beautiful worded, you know, wordsmith of a letter. I was so proud of it. It was like multiple paragraphs long. And then Allison did it with her beautiful details. And I think it was like in calligraphy. It was so pretty. And we sent them all out. And a bazillion phone calls later, because all they read was the very first line. And then nothing else. And mass panic, tons of phone calls everywhere. Has anybody, Amy, have you seen this?
Oh, yes. And I don't advise that.
We learned
the hard way. So I tell everybody, if you do all the homework on the front end, like we were just discussing, if you've done all the homework and things aren't going to change very much, you don't need to go about that huge, massive amount of, instead, what we do is, if it was going to be something that was a huge change, you can create something much, much more minimalistic, or you can let them come into the office, which is our preferred method now. And often, you know, we'll just say, hey, how we change with your, or how we participate with your insurance has changed. This is what it's going to look like. And if there's a copay due that day and it's $12, and for some bizarre reason, which it never happens, if the patient freaks out, you can always write it off. You were going to write it off anyway, I say. So instead, if you can just write it off in the moment, have the conversation, let them remember why they love you so much. I far would prefer that than sending out the mass letter that took you forever, that cost you a ton, that nobody read, at least in my experience. Allison?
Well, and just, I'll try to quickly, you know, kind of everything Amy said, I agree 100%. You know, with how you're communicating and training the team as well as with patients, I definitely would recommend keeping it simple. you know, the first letter that Doctor is alluding to, you know, we had all the details, things that, again, most patients have no idea even what we were talking about. They don't care. They want to know if they can still come to your office, if you're going to accept their plans, if they're going to have to pay more, you know, if there's going to be a change to their benefits. We created a really cool little front and back little, we call it an in-office brochure. One side has frequently answered questions. The other is more of a letter format. You know, we used very specific verbiage. You know, the first letter said things like, we're terminating contracts, where we do not say those words anymore. You know, now we say, we're changing how we participate with your insurance company. Every office, and, you know, it will be different. For us, you know, honestly, I'd say one company had a pretty big change in benefits. All of the others, it's been incredible. I mean, either paying UCR and 100%, you know, of like diagnostic preventative, no patient portion, or they've moved under Carrington with no change in benefits. So, you know, it is a thin line with being transparent and honest about what is happening, but also not causing an unnecessary alarm when it is not. Yes, because we did learn that the hard way. You know, we had a whole group of patients that were very panicked, freaking out. We were overloaded with phone calls, and these plans transitioned seamlessly either to Carrington, they stayed in network, or the out of network is paying UCR, our full office fees. It was very smooth. And so we learned a lot. But yes, I think having, you know, everybody's saying.
Yeah, you touched a really good point of saying, you know, and it is true. You're training the staff, but you're actually retraining your patients. You're retraining your patients to understand and be a little bit more accountable for their benefits when they're not used to holding that accountability. And I have a lot of offices that will choose on doing like that, you know, they're fee for service, but they'll say, hey, anything preventative, I want them to kind of get a feel of my practice. So anything preventative, we'll accept what the insurance pays and we'll adjust off the difference. It's less than they would have to adjust if they were, you know, participating providers. And then once they do treatment or need treatment, then they'll have that different cost as far as, you know, being completely out of network. So they present treatment once they've already established within the practice. However anybody decides on doing it, you just have to be consistent. You have to keep those rules. You can't say John is going to get a discount and then, oh, well, this one, you know, she was a real big pain in the butt, so I'm going to make her check. Well, you can do that actually if you want to get rid of it. But you know, you just have to be consistent and make sure that everybody understands that if it's preventative and you're doing adjusting off because you want to establish new patients within your practice and you want to give them the feel of your practice before they understand that they're going to be full fee for service, whatever it may be, just be consistent.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of really touched base on then what to do with PPOs. If you're looking to drop, do the homework ahead of time. Preparation is key. Don't alarm the patients, but train the team up and figure out when they come into your office from that first point of contact, is everybody going to spread a really consistent message with how you're changing, how you're working with insurances. Anything else though on that we don't feel like we touched?
One thing actually I did want to say is that when you are getting out of network with insurance, I see this a lot on Facebook, you know, because I'm on Facebook groups that are, you know, dental based, and they'll say, well, I just got out of Cigna, hooray. And then they don't understand insurances are like a web, you know, that you might have dropped out of Cigna, but now you're into this other small insurance that you might have been doing a $720 crown and now it's all of a sudden $680, and you're like, wait, I dropped Cigna. Why am I still getting a lower fee? It's because they don't understand that there's still so many little subgroups of insurances that you might be umbrellaed under a different fee schedule since you dropped out of that carrier. So really understanding, just like you said, you've learned the hard way and the good way of getting insurances and fee negotiations and going through Carrington or whatever fee schedule, Connection Dental. You have to negotiate those ones first before you decide on getting out of network. That's pretty much my advice on that.
Oh, good point. Yes.
And I think that is a really good point too, because I didn't mention that, but that is, you know, kind of where we started as well, of just making sure, you know, for us, Carrington is the only network that we had contracted with. I do think that an office needs to, you know, I don't know who has done the contracting, but having a clear understanding of who your providers are contracted with is a good starting point, because yes, some offices don't even realize the contracts that they have. And so as they terminate one, as you were, mentioning, it just goes to another. For us, it was pretty simple because we had a pretty small list of, companies that we contracted with, and Carrington was the only third party network. But, having that list, that TPA list, so I could, see exactly who was going to fall under Carrington. Of course, there's never a guarantee, but that is a very also good point of, knowing which contracts your office has and the providers should be right up there with the starting place as well. So
yeah, for sure. Ashlee, do you have anything you'd like to? Oh, okay.
I knew she was gonna do that.
I did too. I'm being a statement. Sorry.
I'm just here as the technology assistant today. I'm watching the questions. I don't know jack about billing. So
I know.
You just tell us our time is up, Ashlee. Just tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I still love it, but
when the wine's gone, the time's gone.
Right, exactly. So get going. But okay. Well, so one thing that I want to transition into too is, as people are wanting to drop PPO participation, I get tons of questions about loyalty programs, VIP programs, how do I transition more patients to that? And I will tell you that we were having a great conversation that we've transitioned a ton of patients who were actually on self-pay plans, some of the smaller plans, to our VIP plan. So I want to discuss first a little bit more about, what that will be for people who don't know. And that's almost like your own in-house little, I don't like to say the word insurance plan, but it's almost like your in-house discount plan. Yeah. And there's some really great ways to set it up. And there's potentially ways that make it difficult on your billing department and team. And of course, as always, I went the hard way first. I found out the ways that did not work well. And God bless my team. They tried to trudge along with me. And then we found out that it was really not awesome. But the way we set it up initially, and if there's people doing it and doing it successfully, truly kudos, keep it. If it's working for you, wonderful. But the way I tried initially was, it was like a threefold like brochure thing with multiple things on it. And then it kind of dove into if you pay the one big giant fee, it'll cover the 2 cleanings, this much of this much of this, and then some discount on restorative. And what I will say in our experience is we found it slightly difficult. Even as we would set up that pay table, it became kind of a logistical nightmare on the ledgers. And it was super hard to track and follow. I'm sure, and I'm going to have Amy kind of chime in too if you have any information on it. But what we transitioned to during COVID, which has actually worked incredibly beautiful, upped our numbers and actually upped our numbers of participants and true profitability considerably, was I actually lowered the initiation fee to just one flat fee that was a much more reduced fee. So it was, I think it's like $68 or something per year for an adult to be a part of this. That's it. It's the one-time initiation fee. And then across the board, it's 20% off preventative, 15% off restorative. That's a much easier pay table to be able to set up in open dental, and the ledgers take no time to understand. I wasn't having to try to take from this. So for us, that became something so clean and simple that we have it down on just a laminated card that our patients can carry with them. And we kind of created it into a VIP program where they get fun stuff on their birthday and special parking spots. Plus they get this little, which by the way, Ash, I've got some cool swag for you from it's pretty cool. But it actually made it to where the patients feel really, I think, acknowledged and appreciated. But honestly, it was incredibly more profitable, way less adjustments, write-offs, kind of missed things on ledgers. Clean, simple, and there wasn't a ton of questions. I found with my cool little giant brochure, there was so much anonymity, right, to it, that people would find these little wormholes through things, and then my team would get confused. Allison, I'll let you kind of, when it comes to the loyalty, because you've seen all the variations.
I mean, everything doctor said, it, again, for us, and truly what she said, if you have something that's working for you, that's awesome. In our offices, it was incredibly cumbersome time-wise. I mean, we were getting these ledgers that nobody could figure out. I'm spending hours looking through them. If it is that complicated, the patients are not understanding it either. Honestly, we were losing money with the complication of it. Now it is so simple. And I just think that should be the theme for anything you can do. Like, how simple? Are you overcomplicating it? Probably. You know, I have crunched so many numbers with so many patients. You know, Amy, I'm sure you have as well. You know, in general, it is not going to make sense for any patient to have dental insurance, to pay the premium, the deductible, co-insurance, co-pays, you know, unless they're needing a crown, unless they're needing, honestly, I think I got it down to like 4 or 5 fillings or more. So financially, it's just going to make sense for them to do our VIP program. You know, we've got an awesome individual plan that works really well here, that doesn't have any waiting periods, that if a patient ever does find out they need a crown, you know, we can get them signed up with that. It's through Delta Dental. But until then, financially, it just makes sense that, you know, they don't have to wait for claims to process and then potentially be denied, you know, all the extras on top of the premiums. So I think keeping it simple, you know, we created the loyalty member VIP program fee schedule. Those patients just get that attached to them. Everything is billed out at a discount as soon as they sign up. It's easy, it's simple, it's working well for everybody, the team and the patients. So
yeah. I mean, I'm a true believer of the VIP plan. You guys call it a VIP plan, membership plan. They're all called whatever they call it. I'm okay with it. And I've worked with many offices, like you said. I used to work with a DSO that did the brochure concept. And their membership was, I think, was like $60. Then I work with offices that charge $365, $1 a day for insurance, you know, discounted plan. So however you want to do your terms, again, that's kind of really up to you on what you're doing. I have some offices that will do $365 and then they divide that into a monthly payment. So it's almost like you're paying a monthly premium, you know, and then it allows you the 2 free cleanings. It allows you, you know, x-rays or 20% off of services. But really your software will do all of your calculations for you. What I love about Open Dental is that you can actually put everything in there and say, hey, I want this fee schedule to, you know, show a 25% discount, a 30% discount. And then that way it takes all the guessing game, all of the ledger issues and nightmares that come along with it, because all of your adjustments will be shown, you know, within your software right away as you're posting treatment out. So like, you know, this is the one thing that if you do have a discount plan and your cleanings are included, then you have to reflect a 0 in your fee schedule, you know, so then it's not showing up as reduced amount of $69 or whatever it is. And then you're saying all of a sudden you have these aging reports of everything showing up at $69 and you're like, wow, all these balances are on my accounts. So really just reflecting your fee schedules properly to your membership plan. But yes, I am a true believer of being able to offer this to your patients, because if you do explain insurance properly to patients, they can understand it as a coupon. It is a real type of coupon that they're using. It gives them $1,000 of coupon worth, right? They don't have to go through insurance maximums and deductibles and all of these things that they go with your discount plan. So there's a lot of pros that can be sold on why your plan will be a lot more beneficial than them even renewing with their plan, because they might be paying a premium, but they still have to pay 50% up to $1,000 a year, you know, so it's really a drop in the bucket when they're actually needing a lot of services. So I always kind of base it on patients that I'll see. If they are preventative patients, you know, where they're not needing a lot of work, I'll tell them, hey, it's better to go through our program than it is to even sign up with your office, your HR department, because it's not going to be anything that you're going to be using insurance or paying on premiums that you're really not even going to be needing to utilize. So they're just, of course, making more money off of you, when really the services that you need would actually align more with our discount plan.
Right. Well, and I like how you said it too, Allison, where it's like really anything 4 fillings a year or less, it's actually cheaper just to do the VIP program, and to be able to have that to, you know, discuss with the patient. One thing I do want to say that, Amy, I don't know if you have found as well, but talking to doctors across the country, one thing that I have found is you do have to be careful if you're going to charge the entire amount up front. Some states frown upon that. I don't think you're going to be put in, insurance jail, but it's kind of like other things that we do. Just be careful that potentially, sometimes that's why offices do switch to monthly payments, because then they're paying as they go. They don't prepay for services that they don't necessarily get. So just heads up there as you're kind of creating the plan. We went for incredibly simplistic. They only pay when they use it. 20% off, 15% off, super simple. And then kind of made it more of a VIP program that they got additional swag and things like that. But whatever works for you, it's a great opportunity to, if you're looking to drop PPOs, to start something like this and really get the team on board again with team training, how to talk to patients about it, and transition them over if it's going to save them money. So,
and definitely know your state guidelines and laws, and what they are saying for your state differs. So if you're just trying to create this plan by yourself, I would definitely say find out the legalities of everything you should be doing before you start making brochures.
Yeah. Well, that's what's funny is I didn't realize it till I was talking to doctors across the country that I was like, I was potentially. I was like, I don't look good in jail. I don't think. So I'm going to kind of move on to a different topic, because I do think that this is something that so many offices have moved to during COVID. And Amy, like you said, it spiked during COVID for sure, is creating remote billing departments, and then the different hybrids of what it looks like. And, how ours kind of morphed into completely remote was, Allison worked in the office for 3 years or what have you. So, she obviously got all the education, knew the team, knew the patients. And then during COVID found out that her and her family were going to be moving a couple hours away, also still in Colorado. And she was like, do you think we can make this work? And so where I want to start with, if you're looking to create, say, a remote true lead billing, overseer of billing department, and it's going to be obviously a person overseeing even e-assist or in any type of insurance verification companies. The thing I would say that made me feel trustworthy was if they worked in your office and are looking to work remote, it has to be I hope I'm not saying a super bad word here on the webinar, but it has to be like a hell yes, you loved them in the office. They did the job. They did it well. Is that naughty?
Homer Kassmel thinking any word is.
Okay, Ashlee's drinking wine. I think we can say hell.
Yeah, we're fucking okay, guys.
I think that allows us.
I was like, do I get a beep right there? But if you didn't love that person in the office, she did the job, she did it well, she knew it, don't even give her the opportunity to be remote. Allison was incredibly good at her job. And what I will say, she had already worked remotely before. So I knew confidently she was going to be able to set that up remotely and still continue to do the job. We were discussing, could you pick somebody who maybe you put an ad out, for a remote biller and potentially hire somebody? Amy, we were discussing, I think the answer would be yes, if they have office experience already in dental and understood insurance billing already. But to create a completely offsite billing department with a person who had no dental experience and had never been in a dental office, I don't think that's probably where to go.
That's just a whole different nightmare. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you really also want to see, because I obviously deal with a lot of, front office, but also doctors who are very knowledgeable in the clinical aspect, but don't understand insurance. So they're hiring these people that they're like, well, yeah, she told me she has experience. She has 20 years experience. Okay, well, 20 years in dentistry does not necessarily mean that they have strong experience in what you need them to handle. So really making sure that your hiring protocol aligns with what you're actually trying to do. So accountability is extremely important, and making sure that they can actually meet what expectations you have, because you have set protocols in place before that position even exists.
Yeah, absolutely. Allison, what would you say on that too?
I agree with everything that both of you have said. In our situation, I think the fact that I was in the office for years was very helpful, having those patient and team relationships. I agree, doctor, that I think somebody who had office experience, but doing, the position that you're hiring for, I think that could work for sure. But it would take longer. I feel like, to build those relationships and trust with the team. And also, I just want to say as well, working remotely is not for everybody. And I'm not sure if every person realizes that about themselves. It definitely takes a certain kind of person. You need to make sure they're, a self-starter, focused, words that have been brought up, trustworthy, just the integrity, the accountability, able to focus and work on your own. All of those things are important. And then even, somebody having a place that they can do the work. I think that comes into play. We've seen it with a lot of remote people where, they want to do the work, but they don't have a place where they can be without distractions. And that's a real thing to consider as well. But
or even the right equipment,
yes.
It's not even just, maybe they don't they want to watch their child while they're working and they think you could do it at home. You can't. But you also, I know that I used to think I could work off of one screen. You can't, you have to dual screen minimum, So are they equipped to even have a home office? Do they understand what that means? Do you have the ability to mail out claims if you need to, if they don't accept attachments? There are a lot of key factors that you have to have in place before, you just think you can work from home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so to, have somebody that was kind of a moderate, mediocre person and try to move them to that, it's probably not a great idea. They had to be excellent in the office. And then you're right, Amy, we did have to buy very specific equipment for her, which once again, trial and error, we learned as she did it, that she was like, hey, I'm going to need this and I'm going to need this. Once she was able to get fully set up and she has the dedicated space, you're right, then it works really beautifully. So I think it's something that can be absolutely possible, and we love it. She loves it. It's great. I'm a firm believer in it, but I think all the parts of the recipe have to be there before you can do it. Now, when it comes to outsourcing, this is what Mark and I were talking about just a bit ago. Outsourcing insurance verification, AR, things like that, at least portions of it, huge fans of. And I do think, he was asking me about keeping that at the front desk. And I said, to be honest, that's the last thing I want my front office doing. I want them to be able to be with the patients that are in that office. We even have our call center, just slightly off the front office. So there's 2 people in the front office that are check in, check out and with the patients doing treatment plans. And that's it. The calls are kind of removed off to the side a little bit, and billing, insurance verifications is all moved away from it as well.
It's you want them to really establish patient care and show the value within your practice, and everything else, because insurances it's a full-time job, and being on the phone for 30 minutes and then the insurance just hangs up on you, it happens every day. So you have to and then keep that composure, and you're in front of a patient, or you're finally able to finally talk to somebody, and then a patient walks up. There's a lot of factors that really make it inconvenient for any front office to work with insurance. As a dual position.
Well, and I don't want to quickly go over that point, Amy. I hear that from doctors all the time. Can't they do all of that? Can't they do all of that up front? And I'm like, doctor, so it's funny. I have all my associate doctors. They have to be able to call a couple of insurance plans because I want them to actually see what it's like. And that's my associates, because I tell them, and I, by the way, have done it. I've done all of this. And I was like, I was on the phone for 45 minutes, got rerouted, and they hung up. And it was funny because they were like, well, yeah, that happens all the time, and it's funny, doctors, but I think that and then we want them to get through all of it so much quicker.
I doubt they'll want to spend 45 minutes though and say, I would just rather hear about it. But it's like explaining a dentist, do you want to work 7 rooms at the same time? Can you? You can. But are you going to give quality? Are you going to be able to give the best treatment? Are you going to be able to give the best patient care? No, you're not. It's the same concept of working multiple jobs up front, when you can really allow the person to shine and give that great experience without having to stress about that money part on the back end, which is the most important, obviously, a big part of your practice.
Yeah. So that segues beautifully into, how does somebody successfully transition to finding and onboarding, because I do believe you have to onboard insurance verification companies, AR companies. Amy, kind of dig into what you've seen really helps doctors do it well.
Yeah, well, this is my place to shine. So
Do it.
So obviously I work with several offices, you know, full fee for service, hybrid, out of network, in network, that take pretty much any insurance under the sun, but they all have the same issue with the key to understand the insurance. You have to know the insurance game and the rules. So that's, I feel like the advantage of outsourcing is because when you are having somebody who's just in your office and only understands your ways, they're not seeing a bigger picture of how things are actually handled in the real dental world of insurances. So you have to know your state laws and how you should handle non-covered services. Let's just use that as an example. So you being as knowledgeable as you can with how the insurances work, like there's a lot of resources that you can get, kind of tidbits. I'll use Facebook as an example. I have a lot of groups that I'm in and they'll say, oh, hey, Cigna is on a 90-day delay. So you can hear and you're like, oh yeah, they're delaying mine. So you'll get some tidbits of information, which is very helpful. But overall of how to handle denials, appeals, information, frequency, or limitations on what they're actually paying, or what actually you should be attaching to get that proper payments. Those are all things that you kind of have to learn and really own and know your position. And I think this is like why it's the key, to outsource, is because I truly don't know what I didn't know when I didn't know it. I handled several offices now and at once. And so I see complete patterns of what insurances do and their tactics to not pay. So this doesn't make it any easier for the patients if you're in or out of network. It's the same thing. It's just now you having an outsource and understanding like the bigger picture of everything is being able to like now use your resources to help your practice. So actually I had outlined, like whenever you really are looking for an insurance billing company, you should, ask several questions. This is the kind of things that I would ask. Are they suggesting better codes to use to maximize patient insurances? Like I do this a lot, obviously with DSI and DSN, like they'll say, Amy, this is what I use for a comp exam. And I'm like, no, you should be using this. And I'll say, hey, this will get you $54 more if you use this code. If you're diagnosing perio, do this. And, so I'm very much involved because I'm passionate and I love what I do, and knowledge is power for me. So I want all of my offices to be successful. Of course, insurance billing gets paid on a collection percentage, right? So it's benefit for me also to have you utilize the insurance benefits and get maximized benefits. So I'm always going to promote that. Also, are they letting you know what guidelines the insurance requires to make sure that they're successful in getting claims paid? And I use this as an example, like recently, I would say about 8-10 months ago or so, Aetna, United Healthcare started saying intraoral camera photos for buildups to be paid. So I have a lot of offices that will say, well, you know what, I just never get my buildups paid and I'm going to charge the patient. And it's like, no, they will pay. You just have to submit the right information. So it's really like not just closing out claims and then saying, well, this is what your insurance said, and this is, now we're going to bill the patient. You want to, you maximize their benefits. You want to understand the insurances, how you're going to help the offices recognize what they can supply, so then you don't run into those same issues again. And then are they letting your staff know when there are constant errors to help and improve your team? So I always will, when I'm doing the AG report and I'm auditing, I'll see, are their fee schedules attached properly? Why is there a balance on the account? Is it because the preventative services didn't reflect a deductible? Like, is it a constant issue? Is it one time, 5 times? Is it all the time? Those are when like your biller should be raising their hand and saying, hey, let's do a training time, and say, okay, I see that this person or whoever's entering insurance in is constantly having this issue. Let's give a training on how to better understand that. So are your billers not just looking as posting insurance payments and that's it? Like, are they looking at the bigger picture on helping your office be successful?
Yeah.
And are they providing resources so you can grow as a team to improve production and collections? So ongoing trainings, ongoing education to help your staff know. Are they just closing out claims, and not appealing and going to a peer-to-peer review? Because insurances are very well known that if you're not going to fight them, they're just going to keep denying. And so if you just keep closing out claims and not ever, fight it, they're just going to keep targeting your office. So you have to be like, you know, a little strong on saying, this is what our policy is. And so these all have to be set up with your dentist. So when they are looking to hire an outsource, they're getting these, you know, actually boxes checked saying, this is what I want in an insurance biller.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think it's such an important thing that we think, and I've heard this so often, like, oh, I'm gonna hire whatever company for insurance, you know, verification. I'm gonna hire eAssist or whoever. I'm gonna throw them in, and then boom, you know, I'll have my meeting with them, set everything up. Yeah. I'm good. Here comes the money. I don't need a person. And, you know, we found that makes it to where you get frustrated and then you end up quitting all these companies thinking nobody can do anything great. And I'm like, you do have to onboard them. So after you've asked Amy these questions, you found the ones that you really love, you know, which we can have Amy, of course, obviously she's on DSN, so she can put her, you know, company's information on the resource page as well. But there's multiple companies we all know of, but once you found them, you know, Allison, what have you found is really the keys to success for you? Because we have somebody who does insurance verifications for the offices and also, yeah, remote AR. So, yeah.
I mean, you know, we've been really successful with our partnerships with, you know, we've got an eAssist team. We have a couple remote insurance verification team members. Honestly, I think the keys to success would be having somebody in the office and not physically, you know, it can be a remote person, but somebody who works for the office that knows the ins and outs, that can clearly set the expectations, onboard doctor, as you're saying. You know, I work every single day with these team members, just like they are, you know, part of our team, which they are. You know, I'm you know, knowledgeable of everything we're asking them to do. You know, Amy, you had mentioned the appeal process. I mean, right now it's taking 6-7 months, you know, appealing 2-3 times peer-to-peers. But I mean, as one person, and then if you have a front office person who's doing billing, I mean, how feasibly can somebody do all of this? So it's really just working together. But so clear expectations, you know, making sure that those standards are known. I am a big fan of just having really specific systems in place that promote accountability. You know, we have shared spreadsheets that just work very well for us. You know, even in Open Dental, the status tracking history reports, you just have to turn it on in Open Dental. It's incredible. I love it. Shows up on all your open insurance claims, but right away when you run that report, if there's not a note in there, you know the claim's not being followed up on and it slipped through the cracks. But I think having systems in place, you know, making sure there's not duplication happening, you know, with our insurance verifiers, they have a very set schedule. There is no duplication, you know, whether it's specific days and specific companies. And then just somebody in the office, that point person who understands what we're asking of these people, works with them, communicates with them every day. Again, just holding accountable and just really ensuring that you know, everything is being done that needs to be done. You cannot just bring a company on and just hope for the best. You can't.
Exactly. In my onboarding time, like as far as like whenever I start with a new office, the first thing I do is let me show you what I do so you can hold me accountable. That's pretty much, I show them what reports I run, how to check my track stats. I color code my comm logs to reflect insurance and financial. I show them where I write my notes. I show them how I, you know, when I work my reports. I actually even, I don't know if I can share my screen, but I can show you something that I think has been really helpful because it's another thing that I share with my offices. And that I'll say, okay, hey, I export all of my reporting onto Excels. And so I'll say, okay, this is where I'm at 67% done. I've only completed 57. I have 28 more to go. So this is my aging report. And I do this for my outstanding insurance reports. So this then holds me accountable to say, I have to be at 100% at the end of every month. And your billers should have something like this because you want to make sure that your reports are being worked 100% every month. So you can turn these reports in, you can show them your outstanding insurance reports, you can show them your aging reports showing it's been 100% completed, and then it reflects in your software. Accountability is number one.
Yeah. And that's where I see things go really wrong, because they'll be like, I don't know why I'm looking at Jake's reports and I'm like, why is your collections at 82%? And they're like, I outsourced it all and they're not doing a very good job. And I'm like, well, how are you following up? Because are you sure that there's not claims that they're waiting on you for additional information? And often they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So that kind of stems back all the way to the beginning, where we have to have some sense of knowledge of how to hold them accountable. And sometimes, you know, the good outsourced companies will, even like Amy, will be able to give you, this is how to hold me accountable and the results you should see in the next 90 days. If they can't give you any idea of that, and you're not seeing it, and you don't know how to hold them accountable, that may not be a good partnership for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have spreadsheets that we share and say, you know, claims that need attention from the office. So it'll be, let's say there's now current perio charting to submit for SRPs, or the number of the probings don't actually reflect proper numbers to get SRPs paid. All of those I put in the claims, and sometimes offices will respond in a day and they're like, hey, I'm on board and I want to help. And some other offices, I'm like, I've been waiting X amount of days or weeks, and I'm only as successful as you let me be. So definitely it is a partnership. Like, I never treat myself as an outsourced insurance billing. I always say I'm an extension of your practice. So treat me as such. I want to be an extension. I want to be a part of your success. And the only way I can be successful is if we work together.
And that's where we have found the most success, is having somebody in the office who works incredibly closely with our outsourced people. So, well, I'm just going to kind of summarize everything, how we started with discussing how to drop PPO plans more successfully, or move to maybe just a different way of working with them, whether it be out of network or changing to a Carrington plan, how to analyze in your software who you should be potentially looking at first, and how to successfully do it with training your team, how not to cause panic with the patients and the team. We moved into VIP or loyalty member programs and kind of weaved our ways through, like, you know, setting up remote billing and utilizing outsourced companies. So hopefully we gave a really good overview for people doctors and teams who might be listening, who are looking to start doing some of these things. Is there anything, ladies, though, that I left out that you feel like would be helpful before we close out? Did we nail it, Ashlee?
Nailed it. So thorough. I can't think of a thing.
I knew I could count on you to really keep track of our details. So
yeah, I think this was great. It's very informative. I think it'll help a lot of different practices that are kind of swaying on which way to go, or even just don't know where to go or what to do. Knowing that they have people that have been there and done that and can really help them and be a resource. I think that's really the difference with such a great community that we have here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.
Made me all warm. Thank you all, ladies. You guys are so fantastic. Allison, thank you so much. Amy, you're wonderful. Summer, you're wonderful. Allison, you're like aside from Debbie, like our second most famous, our guest host here. So thank you again, ladies. I really appreciate your time. And anything else?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you, Allison. Ashlee, always great to see you. Appreciate you guys for your time and the knowledge you brought. So
I was just trying to make myself relevant at the end, and by
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you guys letting me be a part of such an awesome thing that is empowering women, empowering offices. Just is awesome. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we'll see you next month. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.